Hi everybody, it's David Vaile here. I'm happy to join you. I must say I'm a bit uncomfortable with using this technology. I've managed to avoid using Twitter until now and I've been dragged screaming into that. So I think I'll keep it mercifully short. We've been offered 10 minutes, but I think I can probably touch on a few useful points in less than that. We've been asked to talk about the internet filtering proposal and privacy issues. I think it's worthwhile looking at this as a sort of a generic type of problem with the advent of broadband. And because I come from a legal background, amongst other things, lawyers tend to sort of be called in to fix up the problems when things go wrong and focus on the risks and the liabilities, the disasters. It sounds negative, it sounds like it's just sort of a bunch of whinges or ambulance chasers, but I think it's actually quite useful to recognise that being very conscious of risks and making them visible and having good open discussions affecting everybody, involving everybody that may be dragged in, is actually a very healthy and very useful and a very efficient thing to be doing. If you don't have these discussions, then there's a temptation when things start to go wrong or there's concerns raised to push things under the carpet and just hope we can ignore it, complain about people being just a bunch of whingers, whatever. Now, I think the alternative is to specifically jump in and I suppose it actually follows good IT practice of trying to identify and resolve the risks at the beginning. Now, in the area that we're talking about, the advent of broadband and the connecting up of an incredible number of people to not only the internet but all sorts of other communications, privacy is one of the perennial problems that's going to occur. The problem here is that it's very easy to, I suppose, bypass or downplay privacy concerns. The other side of the coin is that particularly for young people, for young users of some of this really advanced technology, it's been around so recently and there's so little experience with it that the things that can go wrong aren't really well understood. It's not like you can ask your parents or even your older sister what happens if you do something really stupid with one of these new broadband and internet systems. I suppose not get carried away just by the hype and by enthusiasm. Stand back and to be realistic about what some of the problems could be. Okay, so if we look at the internet filtering area, I suppose the most useful thing to do is actually to give some credence, although there has been a lot of criticism about the proposal from a pretty broad range of people and commentators. It's also always important to go back and ask what the concern was, what the problem was, what the motivation was in the beginning, and some of that is around the protection of kids, some of it is around revulsion about some of the excesses that you find on the internet, and some of it is, I suppose, just straight out fear that the whole thing seems to be getting a bit out of hand. Now, I think that it's important to give credence to those, and give time to recognise that many parents are actually concerned about what they do to protect their kids, without just focusing entirely on freedom of speech and those sorts of issues, which are important, but don't necessarily cut it when you think that this is a technological solution to a social problem, and the social problem is out of control. You can have a quite useful discussion about the degree to which the proposal will actually solve any particular identified problem, particularly those surrounding the interests of kids and the interests of parents. I think we could spend all day on that. We've only got a couple of minutes left. I think it's worthwhile moving on and just having a look at some of the technologies involved in the filtering discussion, and in particular thinking about the degree to which they may have privacy implications. The sort of things I'm thinking about are deep packet inspection, where the router, the technology, the software that's involved reaches in and goes past just the addresses around the packets that are shooting around the the net and tries to work out what the content is. This is almost part of an arms race. It involves cyber security. It's obviously a subject of the content control discussion here, and it may also be brought up in the copyright and copyright infringement area. So once you start having I suppose these very powerful and very generic general purpose surveillance and monitoring technologies strapped onto the sort of the key points of the internet, the problem is that you're creating a potentially quite dangerous tool here, and particularly dangerous for privacy, for personal information security. One of the other problems I think for policymakers is that it is a mechanism for pretty top-down, detached, authoritarian policy implementation. Someone who's involved at the other end of a filtering mechanism with a deep packet system, checking everything that they're working on, really has no direct way of working out who's behind it. Is it their ISP? Is it another website? Is it the government? Who in the government? Is it a private operator? The last thing I want to mention in relation to the filtering proposals is the question of the relationship between the infrastructure providers, the ISPs and the other technology providers along the way, and the traffic that goes past and the users. There used to be an idea, a legal concept of a common carrier, where the person, like a bus driver, or I suppose like the post, or like a taxi driver, was not held to be responsible for what their passengers were doing. They didn't have to search them, but they also weren't liable for their misdeeds. And so this enabled the very convenient passage of traffic. No doubt there were sort of criminals passing by, there were terrorists, as we saw in the London bombings, but the alternative of trying to search everybody and trying to make the infrastructure providers responsible for that didn't seem viable in that other offline mode. I suppose one of the questions that we need to answer, and we need to be thinking about before we sort of jump into proposals that do fundamentally turn the ISPs and the others in the chain into de facto police or de facto monitoring agents, and I suppose operating potentially against the interests of their customers, is to ask whether this is, you know, the appropriate change for the relationships at the heart of the internet. And this is not to say that there are not obligations that say the post office or bus drivers had in relation to people that were in their care, and it's the same for ISPs. There are sort of obligations which don't necessarily change that fundamental relationship. Now, I suppose we just have to be careful when we look at all of the opportunities and all of the I suppose not only opportunities for good but opportunities for attempting to fix social ills, that we don't necessarily without thinking put away some of the core approaches that have served us so well in the past. Anyway, that's about all I've got time for, and have a good time in the rest of your discussions, and thanks again of course to Senator Lundy and to Pia and all of the people at the ANU that have made this all possible.